Good morning, everybody. If I could have my slides, please. Thank you very much. Well, it's really brilliant to be here. When I finished my PhD, I found myself working in Sabah at Danam Valley, which some of you may have heard of. When I was there, it was just a few huts. It was that long ago. But I've had a great fondness for this region ever since, and it's just really great to be back in this region and to be in Singapore for my first visit. So what I would like to do today is to really share with you what I'm describing as 3 game changers for sustainable business, 3 trends, themes that are on the horizon that I think are going to be really impactful for business and businesses' approach to sustainable development. I'm very aware that some of you may not know who Forum for the Future is. For those of you that haven't heard of us, we are an independent non-profit working with business, government, and a whole range of other organizations to solve complex sustainability challenges. We were founded 18 years ago now, and for a long time worked primarily in the UK, but over the last 8 years or so have found ourselves working at a global level because, of course, these issues are global in their nature, and we now have an office here in Singapore, which is kindly supported by the EBD. Thank you, Madam Grace View, for that support. And we're delighted to be operating in this region. In terms of how we work, you've just heard one of the key ways in which we work, which is we work alongside businesses, many big businesses, many small businesses, where we're really trying to put sustainability into the heart of the business model, into the heart of the strategy, the heart of the brand. And Unilever, who you just heard referred to, actually is our longest standing business partner. 18 years now, we've been on the sustainability journey with Unilever. But we have more newer partners, particularly in this region, including Sime Darby, including the Swire Group, where we're really working alongside these businesses, again, to put sustainability at the heart of the business. But what we're finding is that leading businesses are increasingly hitting the limits of what they can achieve on their own. And that's why increasingly at Forum, we find ourselves convening innovation coalitions and collaborations where we bring together organizations that share common challenges, that need to work together to find those solutions. Just a few examples here. Very recently, we launched a study looking at the future of US retail through the lens of sustainability. How might US retail really embrace sustainable development, which, for those of you that have been to the US, know that that might seem a slightly strange construct, but it is indeed possible. And then we have the Sustainable Shipping Initiative, which featured a lot of work in this particular region, which is now a separate body, looking at how we might make the global shipping sector sustainable. And then the future of tea, the tea drink that we all take for granted, actually faces a huge array of sustainability issues, and we convened the global tea sector to look at how we can deliver a global tea supply chain. At the heart of our work is our network of over 140 organizations, big and small, including NGOs, including entrepreneurs, because it's important for us to work with all the different levers of change to create sustainable development. And our network is where we share our insights, it's where we encourage learning, but it's also where we gain insights. And the 3 game changers that I'm going to share with you today actually come from insights from our network. So we went out to our network and asked them, what did they think were the most important issues coming down the pipe affecting their operating context? Well, there were 12 of them, and for some reason my font has gone really small, so I'm very sorry about this. There are 12 trends here. We will be publishing these in the new year, so you'll be able to get access to them then. The slides will be available. But there are some trends here that are probably not so surprising. So we're talking about collaboration is the new black. So we're going to continue to see an increased appetite for collaboration to solve these complex sustainability challenges. The businesses and organizations with whom we polled said they also expect to see increasing pressure from high-profile NGO campaigns. And so some of these trends, as I say, perhaps not so surprising, but very important nonetheless. But the 3 I want to focus on today are the move from radical transparency to what I would describe as ultra-transparency, trade moving off global commodity markets. We've just heard from WWF about the global trade issues and the sustainability challenges, and then a little bit about the bioeconomy. And these 3 I've picked out in particular because not only are their impacts far-reaching, but their impacts are uncertain. So these three themes, these three trends are associated with both positive and negative impacts. And how business chooses to respond to these trends has very profound implications for business and society. So number one, from radical to ultra transparency, fueled by the digital revolution. So someone earlier mentioned 7 billion people on our planet. 6 billion of those have mobile phones. So we're entering into this hyper-connected age where we're really seeing this move from what I would used to describe as radical, but I upgraded it to ultra transparency because there really is nowhere to hide. And that's particularly true for organizations with long, complex supply chains, which have the product origin here in Asia. There's all sorts of scrutiny now being applied to these supply chains. So if you're in contract manufacturing, if you are a plantation owner, you'll be feeling the pressure of this trend in terms of questions around your supply chain. Very recently, there was a report published by an NGO called Verity, which said up to 1 in 3 of Malaysian migrant workers were under forced labor. These electronic components find their way into smartphones sold in the West by very big brands. And those brands don't really like the idea of this modern-day version of slavery, as somebody called it. So there are definitely threats associated with this move to ultra-transparency, but equally there are real opportunities. You have online retailers like Everlane who are selling apparel to a whole range of different customers where they're detailing the individual prices of the makeup of, say, an $80 blouse, $8 to sew on the button, because their customers not only care about where their food comes from, they care about where their apparel comes from. In the UK, you've got a tea brand called Tetley Tea. Some of you that have been in the UK will recognize that brand. Tetley Tea is a challenger brand to the Unilever brand PG Tips in the UK, and was really struggling to try and differentiate itself in the might of the PG Tips brand. And so what it did is use its Facebook page to connect Malawian tea producers with the tea drinkers, and actually use digital technology in this transparency move to really have a different conversation about their product. And then there are those businesses that are making radical ultra-transparency a real virtue. So Tesla, the manufacturer behind those really high-tech cars, actually published all of its patents earlier this year. And Novelis, who are one of our business partners, they are a B2B business, so you may not have heard of them, but they're the biggest manufacturing of aluminium sheet in the world. Aluminium goes into many things, cans, cars. And actually, they published their patents for aluminium, recycled aluminium earlier this year too. So there are positives associated with this. And I think the big one to watch here is that ultra-transparency may actually unlock consumer demand for sustainable products and services, because actually citizens, consumers can now get access to data through real-life satellite imagery, through real-life monitoring technology about pretty much anything. And the new normal could be that actually the end consumer knows more about the supply chain than you do, which may sound a bit scary, but actually what that means is these big megatrends that we've heard about this morning, these big sustainable development challenges are impacting the citizen. And I've worked with so many brands and businesses that say, well, we could create sustainable products if people would just ask for them. I wonder, as people discover more and more about where and how their goods and services are made, that they might demand more sustainable products and services. So my advice for this game changer is go with it, roll with it. How can you use this trend of ultra-transparency for advantage? How might you use it, for example, to have a different conversation with your end consumer about where your product comes from? Already, many manufacturers are using QR codes to tell a story about product origin. How might you use ultra-transparency to have that new and different conversation? Also, how about releasing that IP into the market as a way of scaling up your innovation? As it scales, of course, you will be, as the first developer, able to meet that market demand. So number 2, trade moving off global commodity markets. 2 drivers behind this. National governments buying up tracts of land, particularly in Africa. So since 2002, 3 national states, who will remain nameless, have bought up swathes of sub-Saharan Africa, which are equivalent to the size of Poland. which is quite a big country. So that means that that trade is just not available for others to take advantage of. And then in response to issues around volatility, security of supply, you're seeing lots of FMCG brands, lots of manufacturers actually vertically integrating. So in other words, through joint ventures, through new risk-reward profiles, investing in the production facilities. So that means, of course, then that commodity is then not traded on the global market. So the plus side of that is that that does enhance security of supply. But what happens if too much trade goes off the global market and is held by a few wealthy organizations? There's a real equality issue there. So this is a real potential game changer. And my advice here is to look at how you might manage your supply chain differently. Rethink the risk-reward profile in your supply chain. Look for opportunities for vertical integration, but at the same time, weave sustainability into the supply chain. And then number 3, the bioeconomy revolution begins to bite. We know we face some profound challenges, and we know that there probably is a role for biotechnology. So the opportunity side of biotechnology is tantalizingly clear in many respects. We know we need to feed 9 billion people by 2050. We're not quite sure how we're going to do that. So there is a role, in all probability, for biotechnology, applications like synthetic biology. However, there are challenges too. There are issues around biosecurity, not to mention perception. In the UK, in Europe, in the US, biotechnology has got a very dirty name for mainstream consumers, which makes it very difficult for organizations to have a sensible conversation. So my advice on this particular theme is to curate a neutral conversation, use the science well, and think system. Oftentimes we just think about linear impacts, and when it comes to biotechnology, we need to think about systemic potential positive impacts and learn from the rush to biofuels, where actually, on the face of it, that seemed like a real sustainable alternative to fuel. But actually, when we stop to think about it, it reduced land availability for primary production. So what does this all mean? So 3 big trends, 3 sets of uncertainties. It means that all businesses, all organizations need a compass, need a way of navigating this uncertainty. And I use the analogy of the compass as a nod to the fantastic location in which we are in. I have never seen so many ships in a harbour. You get a sense of the real trade that passes through this particular part of the world. And that's why, in terms of wanting to give organizations a compass, we are developing something called the Future Centre, which is being developed here in Singapore with the support of the EDB, alongside the support of some of our pioneer partners. And the Future Centre will have at its heart an online platform where we're going to pull together all the data we've been collecting for years on trends, all of the insights from running a magazine called Green Futures for 18 years. We're going to bring all of that together to inspire and to really help understand what's happening in the future to make better decisions today. We'll also run topics hubs where we'll have conversations about these complex issues. So the Future Centre could be a really exciting contribution to navigating the future. And the team are here today. It's going to be launched in February at the Art Science Museum, which is somewhere close by, very close by, amazing venue. So if you want to find out more about the Future Centre, just ask. But in the meantime, what do you do? I'm going to continue my sailing analogy. So if you are fairly new to sustainability, if you're just getting out of port, so to speak, then put your business in the future. Understand the risks and opportunities and map a pathway to minimizing those risks and maximizing those opportunities. The future isn't something that happens to you. You can shape the future. And putting your business in the future is a brilliant way of building resilience into the business model. If you've already started and you want to put wins in the sails of your sustainability strategy, ask this question. How can you shape the external context around you, influence policy, influence consumer demand, to create the conditions in which you succeed, but also create a sustainable future? That's a double win that the leaders in business in sustainability are trying to pull off. So in other words, shifting their system around them, influencing policy, influencing a whole range of other levers to create success for them, but for the wider world around them. And my final word just on this topic is, tomorrow's risk absolutely is today's opportunity. We do face incredibly uncertain times. We do face all sorts of uncertainty, but by looking to the future, generating new insights, we can become equipped to turn those risks into real opportunities. Thank you very much.